All right, well, the 1010 We Robot event just happened last night, and there were a ton of announcements and an amazing demo, absolutely stunning demo. So let's just watch it, and I'll give you my thoughts on it. So I'm just going to show you the highlights. The first thing that happened was Elon Musk walked out with the SpaceX spacesuit, the brand new one, and he's about to do something. I'm going to play the video first. Let's watch. And there it is. There's the Robotaxi. This is what has been rumored to be coming for a while now. This is a fully autonomous, unsupervised taxi. That means that this car was specifically built to drive around with no driver. There's no steering wheel, there are no pedals, and so you really have to put a lot of trust into what has been built here. And it looks like the future, if the future was what was thought of in the 80s. And that's really the design theme that I think Elon Musk really loves, is what did the 80s future look like? And that's what we saw with the Cybertruck, and now that's what we're seeing with the Robotaxi. So design-wise, you can still see a lot of Tesla-like features. There's the solid light bar across the back, very similar to the Cybertruck. Everything looks to be made out of cold-pressed steel like the Cybertruck, although I can't really confirm that by looking at it. The wheels really look like straight out of an 80s movie. The doors go up and out, scissor doors, I think they're called, which I don't really love. I don't really understand why it would do that, but it's okay. And maybe it'll make it into the final production, or maybe not. So he gets in, let's keep watching. Doors shut automatically. All right, so there we see it actually moving. Now, the cool thing is what they've actually done with their staging. They essentially rented out a huge part of the Warner Brothers studios in Hollywood, and they recreated an entire city. They really rented out a huge portion of it. And I believe they put 20 of these robo-taxis in this little city to drive around. And not only that, they had Model 3s and Model Ys all driving around. And one thing that I've noticed is the car has this weird effect coming out of the front where it kind of projects this light like it's scanning the street, which I think is a really cool effect, although I think it's just an effect. I don't think it's actually going to be making it into production.
As you can see, I just arrived in the Robotaxi, the Cybercab. And there's 20 more where that came from. So they've been traveling. There's no people in them, as you can see. The car's just going by with no people.
Here's another good shot with multiple vehicles in the shot going around the city. I really can't get over how awesome the demo is. They put smoke everywhere. The cars look phenomenal. I mean, this really does look like a movie.
And we have 50 fully autonomous cars here tonight.
So 50 fully autonomous cars in total, 20 Cybercabs, 50 cars total. So the rest are Model Ys and Model 3s. Thank you to the sponsor of this video, Langtrace. Langtrace is the open source and open telemetry based observability platform made for your LLM applications. Langtrace helps developers collect and analyze traces, create data sets, and run evaluations to help understand application performance and accuracy. Because it's open source and uses open telemetry standards, it is easy to integrate with other observability tools like Grafana, Datadog, Honeycomb, Signals, and many more. Langtrace offers end-to-end observability, tracing everything from LLMs to vector databases, and framework-level calls like LangChain, Llama Index, DSPY, and Crew AI. The new addition to Langtrace is agent tracing. Langtrace now offers native support for tracing Crew AI agent sessions with a custom dashboard, providing detailed views of agentic workflows from task initiation to execution. You can trace tasks tools, and memory with precision. Plus, with engineering and debugging modes, developers can switch between optimizing prompts and resolving issues, streamlining LLM performance. Check out and star their GitHub repo, and you can start using Langtrace today with a 20% discount if you use the link in the description below. All right, next he's going to talk about the cost, and I think the cost is really the interesting part and how he thinks about the future of car ownership. And it's going to be much more than just owning a car and letting it sit. And he'll talk about that a little bit. But this has been talked about for a while in the context of autonomous vehicles. When you buy a car, you only use it about 10% of the total time of the car's life. So the majority of the time, it sits in your garage, it sits in a parking lot, just sitting there, doing nothing. And he comes up with multiple ways that more value can be extracted from these vehicles, which he'll talk about in a moment, and then I'll comment on it.
I think the cost of autonomous transport will be so low that you can think of it like individualized mass transit. The average cost of a bus per mile for a city, not the ticket price because that is subsidized, but the average price is about $1 a mile. Whereas the cost of cybercab, we think probably over time, from the operating cost is probably going to be around 20 cents a mile.
All right, so already he's saying it's going to be much, much cheaper than traditional transportation methods. But I want to pause for a second. And I think they did such a phenomenal job of showing off what the future can look like if you have autonomous vehicles that you don't have to pay attention to. You get in the car. What they're showing right now is a meeting. You just take a meeting from the car. You work on your laptop. You could take a nap. You could watch a movie. You can read a book. You can eat. You could do anything. I mean, all of a sudden, and he's going to describe this, and I loved this description, it's essentially like a little living room that drives you around, and you could do whatever you want in it, and it's very private, and it's only yours for that time, of course.
And price, including taxes and everything else, probably ends up being 30 or 40 cents a mile. So yes, and you will be able to buy one.
And so in his future, he is envisioning not necessarily that Tesla owns the fleet of these vehicles, but people do. And so you can buy one. I think he said the price point was going to be $20,000 or $30,000, which is about the price of a standard brand new car. And it's incredibly inexpensive, especially when you think that potentially you could be making money with these vehicles. So if you buy one and then you get driven around, and then for the remainder of the 90% of the time that it typically just sits unused, you go let it run errands for other people, you allow it to transport other people, then all of a sudden it's potentially earning you money. And he's actually going to talk about something that I had never thought of in a minute, and it's related to artificial intelligence and specifically inference. And it's an entire new business model in itself. So let's watch.
We do expect actually to start fully autonomous unsupervised FSD in Texas and California next year.
Okay, so unsupervised full self-driving. That means that you do not have to keep your hand on the wheel. You do not even have to pay attention technically. California, Texas, next year. He also admits that he's been extremely aggressive with timelines in the past and has not always hit them. So take that timeline with a grain of salt, of course.
That's with the Model 3 and Model Y. And then we expect to be in production with the Cybercab, which is really highly optimized for autonomous transport. In probably, well, I tend to be a little optimistic with timeframes, but in 2026. So
gonna start production on the Cybercab, Robotaxi, whatever you want to call it, in 2026. And of course, like he said, he tends to be optimistic with timelines. So take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, before 2027. Let me put it that way. When you get in, you'll see like it's really quite a wild experience to just be in a car with no steering wheel, no pedals, no controls, and it feels great. Something we're also doing is, and it's really high time we did this, is inductive charging. So the Robotaxi has no plug. It just goes over the inductive charger and charges.
So this is so cool. So you basically pull into this service center and your car gets cleaned automatically by robots. And here's the thing, there's no plug. That's what he said. It's inductive charging, meaning you just pull onto something, and just like you can charge your phone wirelessly, it will charge the car wirelessly. Now, it's not nearly as efficient as plugging it in directly, but it's close enough, and it's also a lot simpler. And that's the thing to think about. A lot of people are probably thinking, well, if I let a bunch of other people in my car, they're going to ruin it, make it dirty. Yeah, there's obviously a chance that'll happen. I'm sure insurance will cover some of that. But in terms of the dirt, the car can go clean itself. It goes and drives over to a station, robots clean it, comes back to you looking brand new. And it is just such a cool future to envision. All right, next, he's going to reveal something that I don't think anybody really saw coming, and it looks so darn cool. So let's watch.
Oh, and also, what happens if you need a vehicle that is bigger than a Model Y? The Roven. The Roven is we're going to make this, and it's going to look like that.
So there it is, the Robovan. He calls it the Robovan. And he said it's going to look just like that. And specifically what it looks like is what the future looks like in the 30s. So he has this affinity for futuristic from the past. Okay, so here's an example. Here's a train from 1936. This style is called Art Deco, and it looks exactly like this. It's, I think, a really beautiful design language. But again, he talks about the future should look like the future, but he really means what the future looked like in the past. And so back to here, that is very much what it looks like, an Art Deco train. And he said he's going to build it and it's going to look like this. And the last time he said that was the Cybertruck, and he did it. He is not one to release prototype vehicles and then essentially never release them, which is exactly what all the other automobile companies do. He actually reveals a prototype and then delivers on that prototype.
Now, can you imagine going down the streets and you see this coming towards you? That'd be sick. So this can carry up to 20 people, and it can also transport goods. So you can configure it for goods transport within a city or transport of up to 20 people at a time. So this is gonna, the Roven is what's gonna solve for high density. So if you want to take a sports team somewhere, or you're looking to really get the cost of travel down to, I don't know, 5-10 cents a mile, then you can use the Roven.
I think it's so cool. 20 people just got out of there. It could also carry goods, and it definitely looks like the future. And I can imagine these things driving around a city, and I'm just so impressed. Elon Musk is inventing the future right before our eyes. Now, here's the thing. He's not the first person to come up with robotaxis. Waymo has been doing this successfully for years now. They're operating in multiple cities with an extremely high success rate. I reported a couple months ago that they were doing something on the order of like 100,000 rides per week. So they're already out there, they're already doing it. But I think Elon Musk is really thinking about it as such a bigger picture thing. So it is very impressive. So here is the Robovan.
Some people call it the Robovan, but speaking of robots, so everything we've developed for our cars, the batteries, power electronics, the advanced motors, gearboxes, the software.
So I just realized one thing that was cut out of this supercut that I'm reviewing right now is when he talked about over-speccing the Robotaxi, specifically with the compute. So this is where it gets interesting for anybody watching this channel. He basically said he's going to overspec, meaning install hardware that is much more powerful than is needed into the robotaxis. And specifically what that does is he has all of this free compute in every one of the robotaxis. And he basically said, we're going to have an AWS-like service that we can offer whenever these cars aren't being used. So currently, the average car gets used about 10 hours per week. That's a human-driven car that sits in the parking lot, sits in the garage. And with the Robotaxi, he thinks you can get 50 hours a week out of the car. But there are 168 hours in a week. So a lot of that is going to be charging and cleaning. And during that time, he's essentially going to be offering inference services to anybody who needs them. And it's going to be built into these cars. It is so cool to hear how he's thinking about basically leveraging every single ounce of value out of these cars. And for $30,000, it's going to be an investment at that point.
The AI inference computer, it all actually applies to a humanoid robot. It's the same techniques. It's just a robot with arms and legs instead of a robot with wheels. And we've made a lot of progress with Optimus. And as you can see, we started it with someone in a robot suit.
So he's referencing just a few years ago where he announced Optimus, and it was just somebody dressed in the lamest, stretchy, like robot suit type thing, just dancing around. It was incredibly corny. But you know what? Just a scant few years later, he has delivered. These things are legitimate. And what you're seeing here, these are real robots that are walking and are very capable. And not only that, he's going to show off, kind of like in the show Westworld, these robots are going to be walking around a party, the after party for this, serving drinks, interacting with the people who attended this event. This is truly mind-blowing stuff and really what I want the future to look like. This seems so cool to me. However, if you watched Westworld, that scene where the robots are walking around the party did not end so well for the humans. But you know what? Let's just assume it's going to work out.
Sort of down. And then we've progressed dramatically year after year. So if you extrapolate this, you're really going to have something spectacular, something that anyone could own. So you could have your own personal R2-D2 C-3PO. And I think at scale, this would cost something like, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000.
So he's saying that the humanoid robot, $20,000, $30,000, the same price as the autonomous vehicle, the Robotaxi. At that price point, if he's able to achieve it, I can definitely foresee everybody in the entire world having at least one. And he says specifically, this will be the highest selling product of all time, the most important product of all time.
Probably less than a car is my prediction long term. Now, it'll take us a minute to get to the long term, but fundamentally, at scale, the Optimus robot, you should be able to buy an Optimus robot for, I think, probably $20,000 to $30,000 long term.
But here's the thing. Apparently, the market did not like the announcements. Tesla is down nearly 8% the day after all of these announcements, which seems absurd to me. Not investment advice at all, but I just don't think people see the future the way that Elon sees it. And even if they do, maybe they didn't like the timelines. I don't really understand. Elon, even though he misses timelines all the time, he delivers. He puts rockets into space. He ships satellites. He changed the entire automobile industry. If anybody ships, Elon ships. So let me know what you think. Did you like the demo? Did you think it was cool? What did you think about the robots, the Robotaxi, the Roven? Let me know in the comments. I am so excited to talk about this stuff. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.